In this video, we're presenting our subscription coffee for the month of July. Welcome. Today, we're introducing the coffee subscription for the month of July here in April. And we're bringing with us one of our absolute favorites coffees for the season. It's basically Kenyan time. Kenyan time is always exciting, and I should say before we jump into this video that we have several other videos featuring how we work with Kenyan coffee. We also have an extensive roasting video of this specific coffee, Kamwangi AA, that gives a really in-depth version of how we've been roasting and approaching this coffee. That being said, here continues our normal subscription videos. So as I mentioned, the coffee here comes from the Kamwangi process station that is located in Kirinyaga in Kenya. So Kamwangi is one of the oldest processing stations we can find. They've been historically very consistent in terms of producing high quality coffees. This goes also for this year. Now what we've seen over the years is that cooperative, as most cooperatives in Kenya, has been growing, right? So today Kamwangi has just above 1,000 different members, which makes the lot selection a bit more complicated. But this year we managed to find a beautiful selection of the AA sorting. Now for those of you that don't know, Kenya basically grades their coffees in a few different ways, but mainly based on size, whereas AA would be the largest parchment they're trading. Now, by default, some people argue this is the highest quality. This is a truth with moderation. Some seasons it is, other seasons we find other sortings that actually taste better. But this time, we're really excited to introduce this coffee. Now, some simple details about the coffee. It's, as most Kenyan coffee is today, a mix of varietals. So we're talking SL28, SL34, we're talking a bit of Bathian, a bit of Riri 11. The reason why I'm saying a bit is that we don't actually know the exact ratio of this, which is part of the complication with sourcing coffee from Kenya today. It's actually extremely difficult to get to know the exact specifications of the content of each lot. That being said, the coffee is amazing. So this specific coffee grows on different farms up at 1,800 meters and above just shy of 2,000 meters, which gives us this beautiful kind of juicy characters, which we tend to love in Kenyan coffees. Now, we're gonna walk you through how we're roasting this coffee, but first, we're actually gonna jump into how we're brewing this month's subscription coffee. So, as most of you already know now, what we do is that we're actually using the April brewing kit for this monthly subscriptions, right? So we're showing you and all of you that has this brewer how we're using it to brew the best versions of this specific coffee. Now, in this case, we're gonna do a simple ratio, which has become one of our favorite ratios over the years. It's basically 20 grams of coarse ground coffee. Coarse grind for us means in this case about 35 Anacomandante standard clicks. We're gonna dose 20 grams of coffee, and we're pouring a total of 300 grams of water. And we're doing that in a custom 100 gram steps. So we're starting with a 100 gram pour divided into two different versions. So 50 gram circle to begin with to saturate all of the coffee, and then 50 gram center to finish off to make sure to control that flow rate and make sure that we can finish this brew within a proper brewing time. Now, in this case, we're aiming for 3 minutes specifically. What's interesting here as well is that we're actually increasing the water temperature from our standard brews. And this has been specifically for this coffee because we've been playing around with it for quite some time now. We've been basically profiling it over the last 3 weeks. And we find that in terms of brewing, a higher temperature actually really benefits this coffee. And as we've been pitching before, a higher temperature brings out a bit more sweetness in the coffee, a bit more structure and tactility. So if you have a coffee like this, which is very juicy, very light with a slightly higher acidity level, then it actually really benefits to bring up the temperature to get a bit more balance out of it. Now we're at 1.5 and I'm pouring my final pour. Each pour is identical, so 50 gram circle, 50 gram center. You want to pour each pour within 10 seconds. And I'm finishing off at 300 grams. Now we're basically gonna let this go down And while we'll let it go down, we're gonna discuss how we roasted this coffee. Now, the roasting process here is a tiny bit different, and we actually done a video about this very recently where we show you a few different approaches on this specific Kamwangi coffee. So I'm gonna keep this a bit brief and reference you to look into that video for more details. What I can say is that we're looking at a total roast time that is slightly longer than what we're used to. This is both in terms of total roast time, but also in terms of time after crack. So total roast time here is 11 minutes and 4 seconds with a time after crack that is 1 minute and 8 seconds. Now, this is a few seconds longer than what our average filter coffee roast would be. This comes basically down to two different things. One, we're having a Kenyan coffee that behaves quite radically after first crack, meaning the rate of rise plummets quite aggressively, which makes it difficult for us to end up with a higher end temp. And then if we have a lower end temp, what we do is that we actually stretch out the time after first crack to make sure that we still get that proper level of development. Now, we should argue and say that all Kenyan coffees that we brew are also roasting wise going to be on the light side because that's how we want them. We want them to be juicy, vibrant, and floral. Now, another interesting side note of this profile is the fact that we have basically started with a lower initial burner setting for almost 3 minutes of the initial part of the roast, whereas after that we're increasing the burner and gives this coffee as much energy as possible for the remaining part. Now, that's about it. It's not much more complicated, right? And if you guys want more information about this coffee, then I ask you to kindly look into our other YouTube videos. We're gonna make sure to link them down here. As always, if you have any questions, if you have any thoughts, or wanna know more about this coffee, either visit our website to look at our standard recipes, or just comment or write to us directly. We're always very happy to help you guys as much as we can. And again, thank you for subscribing.